In this episode for the personal interview, part 2, we get more in depth on the car itself and get into its detail. We walk around and show specific items. We get inside the cab and we go over the wow, the cool, and the raw performance. Talk about the next one as a teaser and finish off with some bloopers. I could look real smart, be like, well, you know.
Yes. You see in the future of the Corvette. You got a engine hoist to help hold the frame. Now, how well did that engine hoist work to hold the frame? Or let me rephrase it. How long was it working like it was supposed to?
So I needed to get under the car. I didn't want to take it off the table, so I rigged kind of my engine hoist to hold like the front half of the car while the back was on the table, so I could work on it. And that worked pretty well. But I took a break, like a lunch break kind of thing. I came back and I noticed the back of the car that was on the table was now kind of cockeyed, like it was coming down. So I looked at the hoist, and the hoist had basically decompressed. So then I pump it back up, and then I noticed by 2 or 3 hours later, it had dropped another like 1/4 to 1/2 inch. So I had to now get a board, like a 2x4, kind of set it up in there to hold like the bulk of the weight, because my engine hoist would basically decompress. It doesn't do it right away, but over a couple hours, it will drop like 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. I had a challenge on the exhaust. So we went according to the CAD file of the donor car. So those were the dimensions of our tunnel, because the exhaust runs from the engine, comes basically under the torque tube, which runs, of course, the length of the car, and the exhaust sits under that. Well, on the OEM, that then runs up over basically the rear diff and axles to a muffler, then dumps at the end of the car. I didn't want to see all of that, and it would kind of clutter up the back end. So I found some chambered mufflers, which are basically the length underneath where you sit under the tunnel. But the challenge there became those mufflers were, I think, 3 inches. And the tubing itself was, I believe, 2.5. And so that became, to get 2 tubes that are 3 inches in that space, I ended up with like a 1/4 inch clearance from side to side, which is really, really tight. So there's a mounting point at the end of the muffler towards the back of the car. I get really tight tolerance to get that line up so it weren't clanking a hit on the inside of the car underneath. A little bit of a challenge on the shock mounts. Only because, again, everything's tight tolerance. So once I got the car sitting and the suspension installed, I had to come up to get the right angle for the shock mount, get everything installed there. That came out pretty good. The radiator was a bit of a challenge. So I made a lower bracket. It's hard to see here. I made this lower bracket, which is removable. So the radiator basically sits on that. And then I have a top bracket, this top bracket that holds the top of the radiator. So it's basically just compressing it down, holding that in. Then I made these brackets to hold and house for the cooling for the trans and oil. I've had a few comments ask about, well, what's this intake here? So this is just what was on the donor car. I have a down intake, comes up to the throttle body. Another question I get a lot is, well, what's this? So if you look at that there, that's actually the dry sump pump. And of course you don't see that on the OEM car, only because it's behind the fender and under the inner fender well. But that is the dry sump system for the LS7. Another comment I get when people are checking this out, car shows, they'll say, well, what's this? What is this thing? So that's basically the charcoal filter, which houses and maintains all your vapors from your fuel. It may not be exactly where the OEM was positioned, but that's where, in general vicinity, where it is. So I just made a bracket to come off of that tab to house it there. Everything else, the fuel, of course, the trans, the diff, even the battery, that's basically where it's sitting on the OEM car. So I've sometimes called this my office. Of course, with driving any car, the more you're in it, let's just like race driving seat time, the more you get comfortable in it. I've done so far maybe 1,200 miles, 1,300 miles. Some of that was when it was raw, but most of it was when it's finished. And of course, each car has its own personality. This has its personality as well. I didn't have the TPS sensors. That's the tire pressure sensor. So I got to get those done because the BCM's asking for that. When I first turn this on, it's asking for the traction control. So if I engage the traction control, it will then read it, identify, okay, traction control is now off. So then I flip the switch again, traction control is then on. Let me give you a kind of a view, although the steering wheel's in the way. There we go. So I have the OEM gauge cluster. I have a D-shaped steering wheel, which I love, by the way. It's fantastic to use, except I quickly learned, like on the autocross pass, I did it good, guys. This is no go. I don't know if you can hear me, but we're gonna give this a go. Because if you're turning real fast, you kind of lose your grip. So I have all the gauges, temperature, of course, fuel or oil pressure, of course, tach, speedometer, got my battery and gauge for the fuel. Have my controls here, which reads all of my BCM readings. Now I designed and made this box. It's really only, if I'm strapped into the seat, I can then reach the controls. Had I done it up against the dash, I wouldn't have been able to reach any of that if I was belted in the seat. So of course you got your ignition. This is for the traction control. This is just for hazards. This one's hazards. This is a dome light in the cab for the up here, and then I got ones at the footwell. And then of course this is the key for the fob. Now the fob doesn't reach as far, so we're having to use kind of the manual slot to get that to read. Of course, e-brake, shifter, 4-point harness. Seats are comfortable. I've been asked a few times what the brand of seat is. I don't know. I mean, we did a carpet liner or glue down some carpet, which is basically a marine grade type carpet for the floor as well. And then behind the seats. So that helped with kind of the ticking and the rattling. It doesn't sound like you're in a tin can. Because if you remember, Jason, when we were running around raw, it kind of echoed, and things echoed around a lot because it's just the reverberation of all the sound waves. So putting in this carpet really knocked a lot of that down. I've had several comments on, yeah, one rock and you're done, or yeah, you got to watch out for rocks. Well, surprisingly, you're pretty well protected. You don't see necessarily the wheels or the tires front and rear. You're behind glass. I've got a full firewall. You get some debris sometimes from the rear, but you have to be going pretty slow. So if you're, at just street speeds, you kind of blow through that pretty easy. But the biggest comment I've had, or one of the questions is how windy is it? Surprisingly, it's not that windy. I could have base, cap on, hat on, freeway speeds. I've done 100 plus with the hat on, no problems at all. The only times it is a problem if you got a really strong crosswind and you're not going that fast. Yeah, you'll blow your head off. But driving it's perfectly fine.
The car is in a really good spot, right? I mean, we've got, I'd say less than a handful of things to even think about with the car.
Yeah, so I got 3 things I got to fix: the TPS sensors. If you're not careful, this will grind going into 5th gear. Layer control. So and I'll do a video separate on that one. And then the alignment. So I got this to drive straight. It drives straight as an arrow. Because you can adjust, the toe on the rear and the front. So I got it to drive straight. The challenge is the camber. So the rear tires are cambered. I think I'm still this a little bit. The rear outside tire is wearing more than the rear inside tire, so I'm gonna have to get this aligned. But once those 3 things are those boxes are checked, this is solid, dude. I can jump in it and just go for a cruise. That was the whole idea behind this, was to cruise, go up Mount Lemon, go down the freeway, go to your favorite treat shop or whatever, go out on a date night. That's the whole point of this car. You can go for groceries. You'll just have to turn around and come back and get your other car. Now it will track. It can drag, it can drift, it can do all of those other things. Which I've done some of. But I mainly built this to just cruise. I've seen a lot of comments online like, why? This is kind of me on the street. I like things clean and simple. And as you're driving, it's a total scene. People their cameras, their phones. I sometimes get stuck on the freeway. Like if I'm in the middle lane, I'll get 2 cars or even 3. They'll come up beside me next to the trailer if I'm going long distance, and they'll sit there for 2-3 minutes, and I'm stuck. I can't change lanes because they're doing their own recording. That happens a lot. This doesn't have a radio, it doesn't have stereo, there's no GPS, there's no cup holders, no AC, no heater, which I kind of comically say it's based on your right foot. It's really a wow factor with a cool factor and raw performance. Strip down street rods is drive naked. Now it's not a sexual reference, of course, but if you remove all the skin, all your quote unquote clothing, you're down to the skeleton. Yeah, we're driving naked. If looking back on this experience, it's had its moments, but it also has its rewards. I actually did enjoy working on it. Of course, there were days that you don't. It's been very rewarding in that you can see, here's this thing that I basically built from blank tubing, from scratch. So that does have a rewarding feel to that. It's something that's tangible, you can see it, you can actually drive it. And lots of other people enjoy it. So that's satisfying. Of course you get the, I built this, I probably had this together and apart at least 5-6 times, if not more. So every square inch of this thing, you become very intimate and personal with what you're designing and working on. It just makes you, hopefully, I'm hoping, makes you more efficient moving forward on the next one. I tried to do my best. I'd never done videos before. I got help from, of course, Jason and from Levi. We just set up cameras throughout the garage and just turned them on, not knowing what it's going to look like, how it's going to come together. And believe it or not, we didn't sit down and start producing a video until this was done. So by the time we sat down to start putting things together, we quickly realized, oh, we didn't get this angle. We didn't get that effect. We didn't get a close-up of this, because we didn't know necessarily what to expect. So if you look at the series of the build series, at the beginning it's kind of clunky, it's kind of far away, but towards the end of the build series, it got a little bit closer, more detailed, more information. But because we eliminated a lot of the doors, the paneling and the width of the door, we actually gained a lot of room inside the cab. So the next one on the column, or the tube that runs down the center, the spine, I'm probably going to widen that a little bit, maybe an inch on each side. I'll probably heighten the cab roof, maybe two inches, maybe 3. We'll see how that comes out. But those are types of things that you learn from the first car, how you're going to do the next car. Avoid those pitfalls, avoid those mistakes, to make things go more efficient, for sure. On the next one, I would like, and I'm aiming for, hopefully, I'd like to try the LT4 series. So that's going to be out of the Z06 from a C7. I would prefer manual, but most of those are automatic. I'd like to do, or second option would be the LS9. So that'd be from a ZR1 from a C6. That would be great. This chassis, and I designed it, the cradles will fit the C5, C6, and C7. So that would be a definite checkpoint getting in to do a C7. I've had some comments, well, why don't you do a C8? Why don't you do a Porsche? Or why don't you do a Mustang? Sure, you do that and tell me how it goes. Because believe it or not, there was actually a lot of CAD and CAM work. We didn't just, and I've seen these comments online, well, just because you can weld, it doesn't mean you can build. Well, there's actually, believe it or not, some engineering behind this with the design and all of the CAD work that we did. It wasn't just willy-nilly, let's slap this together and see how it comes together. So this is just an opportunity, kind of behind the scenes interview. I hope you enjoyed watching the channel, Strip Down Street Rods. We're not done. This isn't like the close or we're finishing. It was just a great opportunity to just kind of sit down behind the scenes, take a little bit of a breather, kind of give you my perspective on a lot of this project, its successes and failures and frustrations. Please stay tuned for more. I'd love to see your comments, so keep those coming in. Be sure to share and to like. And I look forward to seeing you at the car shows if I'm still there, and replying to your comments, so keep those coming. Thanks, guys.
Cut.
In a garage a long, long time ago.
Oh, jeez.
Now you realize I'm a square peg in a round hole. Or trying to fit in a round, so this is...
You just gotta think, stop and go.
Well, that's why I don't want any prep.
It's raw.
And I use my hands a lot. I can sit like this. suck it in. I could look real smart, be like, well, you know.
You see the future of the